This is the Edexcel Paper 2 higher tier from June 2022. It's a calculator paper. Question 1. Simplify x cubed to the power of 5. We can do 3 times 5, which is 15, and that gets us x to the power of 15. That's because when we have something to the power of 5, it means we times it by itself, times it by itself again, times it by itself again, and times it by itself again. So we've got x cubed times x cubed times x cubed times x cubed times x cubed. And we can say when we multiply indices, we add the powers. Or we could say each x cubed can be written as x times x times x. So what we'll have is 15 x's times together. So we've got x to the power of 15. Part B, expand and simplify. So we're going to expand the brackets, and that means timesing the number outside by both the terms inside. So we're going to do 4 times x, 4 times 3, then 7 times 4, and 7 times minus 2x. So 4x's are 4x, 4 times 3 is 12, positive 12, 7 4s are 28, and a positive times a negative is negative, 7 times 2x is 14x. So that's expanded. We need to simplify now, so we can add up the numbers. 12 plus 28 makes 40, and we can add the x terms together. 4x take away 14x is minus 10x. Part C, factorize fully. Factorize means put into brackets, and fully means we need to take out everything we can. So factorize as much as we can outside the bracket. 15 and 3 are both in the 3 times table. X cubed and x squared both have x squared as a factor, and there's nothing else that's common to both. So 3x squared times something gives me 15x cubed. 3 5s are 15. X squared times x makes x cubed. 3x squared times something makes 3x squared y. 3x squared times y makes 3x squared y. Question 2. Describe fully the single transformation that maps shape S onto shape T. So shape S has moved to get to shape T, and we call that a translation. And then we have to say how far it's moved. So we're going to write it as a vector, and we're going to pick a point on S and the same point on T and see how far we have to move to get there. So in the X direction, minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in the Y direction, up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we go 5 left, which is minus 5, and then up 6, positive 6. Write that as a vector, so minus 5 on top, the change in the x on top, the change in the y's on the bottom. Question 3. The length of a football pitch is 90 meters, correct to the nearest meter. Complete the error interval for the length of the football pitch. So it's been measured to the nearest meter. So we've got 90, the one up is 91, the one down will be 89. So our football pitch must have been between the midpoints. So between these two midpoints here, which would be 89.5 and 90.5. So the football pitch must be between 89.5 meters and 90.5 meters. It can equal 89.5, So it's got a bigger than or equal sign, but it can be anything up to, but not including 90.5. So it's just a less than symbol. Question 4. Festival A will be in a rectangular field with an area of 80,000 meters squared. The greatest number of people allowed to attend Festival A is 425. Festival B will be in a rectangular field 700 meters by 2,000 meters. The greatest number of people allowed to attend Festival B is 6,750. The area per person allowed for Festival B is greater than the area per person allowed for Festival A. How much greater? So we need to work out the area per person. When we see per, it means divide. So the area divided by the number of people. So for Festival A, area divided by the number of people is 80,000 divided by 425, and that's 188.235. 188.235, and that's area per person. So if we wanted the units, it would be meters squared per person. For Festival B, the area is, we need to work it out, so 700 times 20,000. I'm just going to store my previous answer in the calculator as A, and for 700 times 2,000, which is 1.4 million, so 1,4 and then 5 zeros, divided by the number of people, 6,750. So the area per person, area divided by the number of people, is 207.407 meters squared per person. The question said, how much greater? So how much bigger is this? Is our answer for B than our answer for A? So what's the difference between them? We're going to do the B take away A, so 207.4 and so on. Take away 188.2 and so on. So this answer, take away our other answer, we've got 19.17 and so on. The question says give your answer to the nearest whole number, so it's just 19. So 19 meters squared per person. Callum says 300 centimeters squared is the same as 3 meters squared because there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter, so you divide by 100. Callum's method is wrong. Explain why. So every 1 meter squared is 1 meter by 1 meter. But in centimeters, that same meter squared is 100 centimeters by 100 centimeters. So 1 meter squared is actually 100 times 100, which is 10,000 centimeters squared. So you can fit 10,000 centimeter squares into a meter squared. So 300 centimeters squared is not the same as 3 meters squared. He shouldn't be dividing by 100. He should be dividing by 10,000. So we can either say he's wrong because 3 meters squared is 30,000 centimeters squared, or he should divide by 10,000, or even he's wrong because a meter squared is 100 times 100 centimeters squared. So any explanation that says something along those lines should be good enough for the mark. I'll just write he should divide by 10,000 or 100 times 100. Question 5. The points L, M and N are such that L, M, N is a straight line. So we've got L and M, we've got the coordinates, and then we've got a ratio LM to MN. So we've got a straight line with 3 points on it. We've got L, M, and N. So we know L is at -3,1, M is at 4,9, and L to M is 2 parts, so 2 parts. M to N is 3 parts, so 1, 2, 3. Find the coordinates of N. So let's work out the distance from L to M. How far do we have to go to get from L to M? In the X direction, we go from -3 to 4. -3 to 4 is 7 spaces. And from 1 to 9 in the Y's, we're going up 8. So 2 parts is 7 in the X, 8 in the Y. So then we can work out what 1 part is by halving that. So 1 part will be 3.5, 4. So each part is along 3.5 up 4, along 3.5 up 4, along 3.5 up 4, along 3.5 up 4, along 3.5 up 4. So if we work out 3 parts, which would be 3 times this, 3 3.5s, we can use the calculator if we want to, is 10.5. And 3 4s are 12. So we want to go along from M to N, along 10.5, up 12. So M is at 4,9. So 4 plus 10.5 for our X, which is 14.5. And 9 plus 12 for our Y, which is 21. So it's at 14.5, 21. Question 6. A new phone cost £679. The value of the phone decreases at a rate of 4% each year. Work out the value of the phone at the end of 3 years. So it goes down by 4% each year. So after each year, we have 100% take away 4%, which is 96%. So every year we have 96% of what we had the previous year. So we can work out 96% by multiplying by 0.96. That's 96% written as a decimal. So for each year, we want to times by 0.96. So for 3 years, we want to times by 0.96, times by 0.96 again, and times by 0.96 again, which is the same as 0.96 cubed. So 679 times 0.96 cubed. And we get £600 and 74 pence. Question 7. In Spain, Sam pays €27 for 18 litres of petrol. In Wales, Leo pays £40.80 for 8 gallons of the same type of petrol. And we've got the conversions. €1 is 85p and 4.5 litres is a gallon. Sam thinks that petrol is cheaper in Spain than in Wales. Is Sam correct? So let's start with Spain. So €27 for 18 litres. Let's change 27 euros into pounds. So each euro is 85p. So 27 lots of 85p is £22.95. So it's £22.95 for 18 litres. We could work out the cost of 1 litre by dividing by 18. So if we divide by 18, we'll get the cost of 1 litre. So each litre will be 1.275. We could say that's £1.28. I'll put £1.28 for 1 litre. Then let's look at the situation in Wales. So £40.80 for 8 gallons. Each gallon is 4.5 litres. So 8 times 4.5 is 36. So it's £40.80 for 36 litres. And then if we wanted the price of 1 litre, we could divide by 36. So £40.80 divided by 36 is £1.13. So it's £1.13 for 1 litre. So where is it cheaper? It's cheaper in Wales. Wales is cheaper. Sam is not correct. Sam is not correct because it's cheaper in Wales. £1.13 is less than £1.28. Question 8. Use your calculator to work out. So we've got the cube root of 1.57 to the power of 4 plus tan 60 all over 7.2 to the power of a half. And we need to give our answer to 3 significant figures. So I'm going to press the fraction button first, and then the cube root. Then I want 1.57 to the power of 4 plus tan 60, and that is over 7.2 to the power of 1/2. And we need to give our answer to 3 significant figures, which is 0.739. Question 9. A box in the shape of a cuboid is placed on a horizontal floor. The box exerts a force of 180 newtons. The box exerts a pressure of 187.5 newtons per meter squared on the floor. The face in contact with the floor is a rectangle with length 1.2, width x. Work out the value of x. So the area is length times width, which is 1.2 times x. So 1.2x. So we've got the pressure is 187.5 is equal to the force 180 divided by the area, which is 1.2x. So we want x by itself. Let's get rid of the fraction first. So we're going to multiply both sides by 1.2x. So 187.5 times by 1.2 is 225. So 187.5 times 1.2x is 225x. Now we want x by itself. At the moment it's multiplied by 225, So let's divide both sides by 225. So 180 divided by 225 is 4/5 or 0.8. So that's our answer. That's the width, 0.8 meters. Question 10. The box plot shows information about the sales in thousands of pounds of an online store each month. Andrew says 3/4 of the given data lies between 160,000 and 350,000 because these values are the lower quartile and the upper quartile. Andrew is wrong. Explain why. So half of the data lies between the lower quartile and the upper quartile. So 1/4 of the data is between the lowest and the lower quartile, 1/4 between the lower quartile and median, 1/4 between the median and upper quartile, and 1/4 between the upper quartile and the highest value. So it's half of the data. Half of the data lies between the lower and upper quartiles. The table shows information about the sales in thousands in a shop each month. Draw the box plot for this. So we've got the lowest, the lower quartile, the median, the upper quartile, and the highest. That's what we need. So we just need to draw it on. So the lowest is at 30. Lower quartile is at 80. Median at 170. Upper quartile 260. And the greatest at 350. So let's just draw on the box and the whiskers, and there is our box plot. Compare the distribution of the sales for the online store with the distribution of sales in the shop. So when we're comparing these two distributions, comparing these two box plots, we're going to compare the medians and we're going to compare a measure of spread, which is usually the interquartile range. It can also be the range though. So the median is at 200 for the online store, 170 for the shop. So the median sales for the online store are greater. And the spread, so the interquartile range, so 350 take away 160 is 190 for the online store. For the shop, 260 take away 80 is 180. So which is more spread out? The online store. So the online store are more spread out because the interquartile range is greater for the online store. Question 11. Kieran has 13 workers he can use for a job. He knows that 6 workers take 14.5 days to complete the job. Show that Kieran has enough workers to finish the job in less than 7 days. So 6 workers take 14.5 days. So 6 times 14.5. It's a inversely proportional relationship. As you increase the number of workers, it decreases the amount of time it takes. So if we do 6 times 14.5, we get 87. 87 days. So it would take one worker 87 days. There's 87 days of work that need to be done. So let's share it out between the 13 workers. So share out that work between 13 and we get 6.69 days. So he has enough workers to finish it in less than 7. So yes, it would take 6.69 days. Question 12. The equation of line L1 is y equals 2x plus 3. The equation of line L2 is 5y minus 10x plus 4 equals 0. Show that these two lines are parallel. So if they're parallel, that means they have the same gradient. Line 1 is in the form y equals mx plus c. So the gradient of L1 is 2. So L1 has a gradient of 2. Line 2 is not in the right form. It's not in the form y equals mx plus c. So let's rearrange it to make y the subject. So we'll plus 10x to both sides and take away 4 from both sides. So 5y is 10x, take away 4. And then divide every term by 5. So divide by 5, divide by 5, divide by 5. So that gets us y equals 2x minus 4/5 or 0.8. So L2 has a gradient of 2 as well. So they've both got a gradient of 2, therefore parallel. Same gradient, therefore parallel. Question 13. Enlarge the shaded shape by a scale factor -2 with center of enlargement at the origin 0, 0. So the scale factor is -2. So we're going to look at how far we go to each point. So if I call this point here our red point, to go from the origin to the red, we go 1, 2, 3, back 3, minus 3, down 2. So the red point, minus 3, minus 2. If we multiply that by -2, what do we get? So -3 times -2, positive 6. -2 times -2, positive 4. So we're going to go right 6, up 4 now. So the red point will be up there. The green point is left 2, down 4. Times it by -2 will get us to 4, 8. Right 4, up 8. Our blue point here was left, so 5 minus 2, minus 5 minus 2, times it by -2 will get us to 10, 4. So right 10, up 4. And let's have a purple point. Left 6, down 4. Times it by -2 will get us to 12, 8. So right 12, up 8. And then we'll just join those points together. And there is our enlarged shape. And what you'll notice if you use a ruler, the blue point to the blue point will go through the origin. The purple to the purple will go through the origin. Green to green will go through the origin. And red to red will also go through the origin. And it's twice as big. So this was 2 along, the small length, now it's 4 along. So it's a scale factor of -2, centre of enlargement at the origin. Question 14. Saffron wants to work out an estimate for the total number of fish in a lake. This is called capture-recapture. On Friday, Saffron catches 180 fish from the lake and puts a tag on each of them and puts them back in the lake. So 180 fish out of the total number of fish have got a tag on them. On Saturday, Saffron catches 305 fish and 45 of them are tagged. So 45 out of those 305 fish have also got a tag on. Work out an estimate for the total number of fish. So these two should be equivalent fractions. They should be equal, because the proportion of fish with a tag on shouldn't have changed between the 2 days. So how can we work out x? So to get from 45 to 180, we times by 4. 180 divided by 45 is 4. So if we times the top number by 4, the numerator by 4, we also times the denominator by 4. So 305 times 4 is 1,220. Question 15. The ratio of Marta's hourly pay to Khalid's hourly pay is 6:5. Both Marta and Khalid get an increase of £1.50 in their hourly pay. The ratio of Marta's hourly pay to Khalid's hourly pay after the increase is 13:11. Work out the hourly pay before the increase for Marta and for Khalid. So they're in the ratio 6:5 before the increase. We don't know exactly what the pay is. So let's say it's 6x for Marta and 5 times x for Khalid. Then they both get an increase of £1.50. So we've got 6x plus £1.50 and 5x plus £1.50. And that is the same as these two are in the ratio 13:11 now. 13:11. So if two things are in the ratio of 13:11, if we times the 13 side by 11 and the 11 side by 13, we can make them equal to each other. So we can say 11 lots of 6x plus 1.5 is the same as 13 lots of 5x plus 1.5. What we could have also done at this stage is written them as fractions and said 6x plus 1.5 over 5x plus 1.5 is the same as 13 over 11. I then times both sides by the fractions and then did up with the same line. So let's solve for x. So expand the brackets. 11 times 6x is 66x. 11 times 1.5 will be 16.5. 13 times 5x will be 65x. And 13 times 1.5 will be 19.5. So let's take 65x away from both sides. And that just gets us x plus 16.5 equals 19.5. And then take 16.5 away from both sides. And we get x equals 3. So what were the pays? 6 times x, which is 18. And 5 times x, which is 15. So 18 and 15. Question 16. A shop manager wants to advertise special offers on social media platforms. The manager asks 100 customers which of type A, type B, or type C they use, and of the customers, 4 use all 3 types. So in our Venn diagram with A, B, and C, 4 is in the middle in the A circle, the B circle, and the C circle. 16 do not use any, so they're not in any of the circles, they're on the outside. 8 use both of type A and B, but not C. So A and B, but not C, is this bit here. 14 use B and C. So B and C's crossover must be 14. We've already got 4 in there, so we need 10 more. So 14 are in the B circle and the C circle. 62 in total use A. So we can't do anything with that yet. All 20 who use C use at least one of A and B. So no one uses just C. And there's 20 that use C, so 4 and 10 is 14. We need 6 more. So now we can use this 62 in total use A. At the moment in A, in the A circle, we've got 8, 4 and 6, which is 18. 62 in total. So 62 take away 18 is 44. Then we've got one bit left and we're told they should all add up to 100. So our A circle is 62. Then we've got a 10 and a 16. That adds up to 88. So 100 take away the 88 means there's 12 missing. One of the customers is chosen at random, given that this customer uses A, so it's only out of the A circle. We're only interested in the A circle. Find the probability that this customer also uses B. So it's out of the A circle, which is just 62 people. How many of those 62 people in the A circle use B? 12. There's 12 people in the A circle that use B. So it's 12 out of 62. Question 17. A solid cone is joined to a solid hemisphere to make the solid T shown below. The diameter of the base of the cone is 7 centimeters, which means the radius is half of that, 3.5 centimeters. The diameter of the hemisphere is the same. The total volume for the shape is 120 pi centimeters cubed. The total height is y, and we need to calculate the value of y. So if we split y up, so the height of the hemisphere will be a radius, which is 3.5. So this is 3.5. So the height of the cone is y take away 3.5. So let's just work out the volumes. So the volume of the sphere, well, a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. So a hemisphere will be half of that, which is 2/3 pi r cubed. So we've got 2/3 pi times the radius, which is 3.5 cubed. And then the cone is 1/3 pi r squared h. So 1/3 pi times the radius, 3.5 squared, times the height, which is y minus 3.5. So that's the total volume, and that equals 120 pi. So now we just need to simplify this, and we will find out what y is. So let's do 2/3 times 3.5 cubed. So 343 over 12. So 343 over 12 pi plus, let's do 1/3 times 3.5 squared. (49/12) plus 49/12 pi times y minus 3.5 equals 120 pi. So let's take away, do 120 pi, take away 343 over 12 pi, or actually we could just divide everything through by pi first and just get rid of the pi's entirely. So 120 take away 343 over 12 is 1097 over 12. Let's times everything by 12. Then divide by 49. So 1097 divided by 49 times by 12. Divide by 49. So I've got 22.4. But that's y minus 3.5 is 22.4. So add 3.5 to get y by itself. That gets us to 25.9. So y is 25.9. The diameter of the base of the cone and the diameter of the hemisphere are both increased by the same amount. Assuming the volume does not change, explain the effect this would have on your answer to part A. So if we increase the base, if we made this wider, made the sphere bigger, the height would have to be smaller to have the same volume. So if the radius is bigger, the height would have to be smaller to keep the volume the same. So it would mean the answer, or the height, decreases, gets smaller. Question 18. PQR and RQS are triangles, and we need to calculate the length of QS. So we're working out this length over here. Whenever we have two triangles together like this, usually we have to use the first triangle, or the one we're not trying to work out, first. So let's use the triangle PQR, use this triangle, and we'll work out the shared length. So I'll call this one Y. And then we'll be able to use, so we're going to use the cosine rule. We've got two lengths and an angle between them, or we're using three lengths and we've got an angle. So the cosine rule, a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. Big A is our angle, opposite it is little a, and the other two in either order, either way round, are b and c. So we can use that, find y here, and then the second part will be using the sine rule, because we've got opposites, to find our missing length. So using the cosine rule, y squared equals 11 squared plus 9.4 squared minus 2 times 11 times 9.4 cos 27. 11 squared plus 9.4 squared minus 2 times 11 times 9.4 cos 27. So 25.1, that's y squared. So y squared is 25.1 square root to get y, and that's 5 centimeters. So this is 5 centimeters. Now we can use the sine rule. So the sine rule, if we're finding a length, we want to put the lengths on top. So we're going to have a over sine a equals b over sine b. So x over sine 88, that's its opposite, equals our previous answer over sine of its opposite, so sine 41. So to get x by itself, we times by sine 88. So x is our previous answer, which is 5 over sine 41 times sine 88. So let's type that in the calculator. So answer over sine 41 times sine 88. And that's 7.63. Question 19. The functions g and h are such that g of x is the cube root of 2x minus 5 and h of x is 1 over x. Part A says find g of 16. So we're changing x into 16. We're substituting 16 into our g function. So that will be the cube root of 2 16s take away 5. So we can use the calculator. The cube root of 2 16s take away 5, which is 3. Part B, find h g minus 1 of x. So we're putting the inverse of g into h. We're going to put the inverse of g into h and give your answer in terms of x in its simplest form. So we can find the inverse of g. So at the moment, g of x is the cube root of 2x minus 5. And I'm going to call that y for now. And I'm going to undo this function. I'm going to get x by itself. I'm going to completely rearrange this function. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to change x into y and y into x. So I'm going to make y the subject of this. So to get rid of a cube root, I'm going to cube. The opposite of cube rooting is cubing. So x cubed is 2y minus 5. I'm going to plus 5 to both sides. So x cubed plus 5 is 2y. I then divide both sides by 2. So I've got x cubed plus 5 over 2 equals y. And this is the inverse of g. So instead of saying y, I'm going to say the inverse of g is x cubed plus 5 over 2. So I'm putting the inverse of g into h now. The inverse of g goes into h, and h of x is 1 over x. So it's 1 divided by this. So h g minus 1 of x is 1 over 1 divided by x cubed plus 5 over 2. And to divide by a fraction, I'm going to times by its reciprocal. So 1 times 2 over x cubed plus 5, which is just 2 over x cubed plus 5. So h g minus 1 of x is 2 over x cubed plus 5. Question 20. A, B, C, and D are points on the circumference of a circle centre O. ADE and BCE are straight lines. And we can see all of that on the diagram. We need to work out the sides of angle CDE, C to D to E. That's this angle here. We need to give a reason for each stage of our working. So we've been given this 132 degrees angle here, and we can say that the angle at the center is twice the angle at the circumference. So BOD is 132. If we half that, we'll get 66 degrees. So angle BAD is 66 degrees. And the reason is the angle at the center is twice the angle at the circumference. Now we have a cyclic quadrilateral. We have a four-sided shape with each of the four corners on the circle. A four-sided shape inside a circle is called a cyclic quadrilateral, and the opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral add to 180 degrees. So 180 take away 66. 80 take away 66 is 14. So 180 take away 66 is 114 degrees. So the opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral add to 180. So the opposite angles in a cyclic quadrilateral add to 180 degrees. Now we can use angles on a straight line. So angles on a straight line add to 180 degrees as well. So this angle will be 66. DCE. DCE is 66 degrees because angles on a straight line. Add to 180 degrees. And then we have angles in a triangle. So angles in a triangle add to 180 degrees. 66 and 16 are 82. So 180 take away 82. So 180 take away 66 and 16. 180 take away 82 degrees is 98 degrees. So our missing angle is 98 because angles in a triangle add to 180. So it's 98 degrees. That's our answer. That's the size of our angle CDE. Question 21. The graph of f of x, y equals f of x, is shown on the grid below. On the grid above, sketch the graph of y equals f of minus x. So f of minus x, the change is inside the bracket, the minus is inside the bracket. It changes all the positive x's to negative x's, and all the negative x's into positive x's. So this point here has an x of minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to become x of positive 5. Where x was negative 3 will now become positive 3. Negative 1 will become positive 1. 0 will stay where it is. And positive 2 will become negative 2. We can say that this is a reflection in the y-axis. So when the minus is inside the bracket, it's a reflection in the y-axis. When the minus is in front of the f, it's a reflection in the x-axis. So let's just join up these points. And there is our graph. Part B. So here is a sketch of y equals 10x. The graph of 10x is translated to give the graph of y equals g of x. Following the translation, point Q, shown on the graph here, moves to point R with coordinates 90 minus 5, give an expression for g of x in terms of x. So here's our graph of tan x. Let's work out the coordinates of Q. So it's 0, 90, 180. This asymptote's at 270. So Q is at 360. So the coordinates of Q are 360, 0. So Q has coordinates 360, 0. We want to get to 90 minus 5. So it goes back 270 in the x direction and down 5 in the y direction. So how can we write that in terms of tan x, which was our original graph? How can we do this translation? So we want x plus 270 inside the brackets. So inside the bracket does the opposite. So it says add 270, but that means we shift it to the left 270. And then we want to go down 5, so we just write minus 5. So g of x is tan x plus 270 minus 5. As g of x, it'll be g of x plus 270 minus 5. Minus 5. So 270 left, down 5. Question 22. Find algebraically the set of values of x for which x squared minus 49 is bigger than 0 and 5x squared minus 31x minus 72 is bigger than 0. So we've got two different quadratic inequalities that we need to solve. So x squared minus 49, I can write as x plus 7, x minus 7. It's a difference of two squares. So if I factorize x squared minus 49, it's x plus 7 and x minus 7. And we want to know where that's bigger than 0. So if we do a quick sketch, x plus 7, x minus 7 will cross the axes at negative 7 and positive 7. There its roots, negative 7 and positive 7. And it's shaped like a U shape. So where is this graph bigger than 0? What does x have to be for the graph to be bigger than 0? X has to be less than negative 7, or x would have to be greater than 7. Anything in between negative 7 and 7 is less than 0. It's beneath the y-axis. How about our other graph? So we could use the quadratic formula, or we could try and factorize it. Let's use the quadratic formula. So a is 5, b is negative 31, and c is negative 72. And the quadratic formula says x is minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So that's minus 31 plus or minus the square root of minus 31 squared minus 4 times 5 times minus 72 all over 2 5s. So I'm going to type that into the calculator exactly how it looks. So I've got minus 31. I'm going to do the plus sign first. So plus the square root of minus 31 squared. Make sure you've got brackets around the minus 31, or the calculator will think you're doing take away 31 squared. Minus 4 times 5 times negative 72 all over 2a's, which is 2 times 5. So we've got 8 as our first answer. And our second answer, if we change the plus to a minus, we get minus 9/5. So they're the roots there where it crosses the x-axis, and again we're going to have a positive quadratic, so our U-shaped graph. So we've got minus 9/5 and 8. And what do we want to know? Where it's bigger than 0. So it's bigger than 0 when x is less than 9/5 and when x is bigger than 8. So the question says, what's the set of values for x for which both of these are true? So for them both to be true, it's got to be less than minus 9/5, but also we can't have anything in between -7 and 7. So it must be less than -7 and bigger than 7 and bigger than 8. So for them to both be true, it's got to be bigger than 8. So it's true for both of these. Both these graphs are above the y-axis when x is less than -7 and when x is bigger than 8. That works for both of them. So it's x is less than -7 and or x is bigger than 8.